Welcome back. All right, 8 games in the National Hockey League on Sunday. And while it feels like it's all day, it's actually going to end pretty early. So look for an early review tomorrow. I will review all 8 games at the same time. So that being said, we're starting off at 2 o'clock in the 2 o'clock Pacific Eastern, which is 11 a.m. Pacific. So a little bit later than the games today by an hour and a half. We're starting off with Tampa Bay in against New York Islanders. Bless you. So the Tampa Bay Lightning win 4-1 on November 15th. The third game between these teams will be to end the season on April 29th. So Tampa Bay 40-18-6. Last 10 games they're 4-6. They did win their most recent game. Away from home they're 21-12-2. They're 8 points behind Florida, so that race is over. They're 1 point behind Boston and 1 point ahead of Toronto. So the race is really now between second and fourth. And fourth means being a wild card and potentially playing either Carolina or Florida. It doesn't really matter. You're going to go through basically a murderer's row of teams no matter who you play in the East. On the Islanders side, they're 28-26-9. Last 2 games, they're 7-2-1. They did lose their last game. At home, they're 17-12-4. They're 4 points behind Columbus and 5 points ahead of Detroit. So for the New York Islanders, playing out the string, they've done pretty well. The loss today against Boston was one thing. Tomorrow they're against Tampa. We'll see if they play spoiler there. Then we fast forward 3 hours to 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific. The Buffalo Sabres in against the New York Rangers. The Rangers have won the first 2 games, but Buffalo is better than they were the first 2 times they met the Rangers. So November 21st, the Rangers win 5-4. On December 10th, the Rangers win 2-1. So for Buffalo, they're 23-33-9, but their last 10 games are 6-3-1. They did have a loss in extra time their last game. Away from home, they're 11-17-4. They're 5 points behind Detroit and 2 points ahead of Philadelphia. On the Rangers side, they're 41-19-5. Their last 10 games are 6-4. They did win their last game. Dramatic fashion as well. At home, they're 21-6-3. They're 1 point behind Tampa, and they're only 3 points ahead of Washington as the Capitals continue to heat up. Then at 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific as well, the Detroit Red Wings and the Pittsburgh Penguins go at it. So Pittsburgh and the Rangers both have opponents they should beat. The difference is Pittsburgh lost the first game against Detroit 3-2 in a shootout on January 28th. The third and final meeting between these teams will be on April 23rd. Detroit's 26-31-8. Last 10 games are 2-6-2. They did lose their last game in extra time. Away from home, they're 9-19-3. They're 5 points behind the Islanders and 5 points ahead of Buffalo. The Pittsburgh Penguins, 39-17-10 over their last 10 games. They're 5-3-2. They lost their last game. At home, they're 18-9-5. They're 5 points behind Carolina. They're 1 point ahead of the New York Rangers. Then at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, the Philadelphia Flyers and the Nashville Predators meet for the second and final time. March 17th, Philadelphia actually won that meeting 5-4. So Philadelphia 21-33-11, another team playing out the string. The last 10 games, they're 4-5-1. They lost their last game. Away from home, they're 8-18-5. But that last loss was against Colorado, so that's understandable. They're 2 points behind Buffalo. They're 1 point ahead of Ottawa, and they're 2 points ahead of the New Jersey Devils. The Nashville Predators, 37-24-4 over their last 10 games. They are 6-4, but they've lost 2 in a row in regulation. And that loss against Vegas was rough, so they may very well take that out on Philadelphia. At home, they're 19-11-0. They're 1 point behind St. Louis. They are 2 points ahead of the Vegas Golden Knights. So the race in the West is truly interesting. On the other side of the board here, also at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, the Colorado Avalanche and the Minnesota Wild renew their rivalry. And this should be, with the additions Minnesota got, this could be a rough game. I can't prove that McDermott's going to fight one of the guys on Minnesota, but I'd be very surprised if it doesn't happen. Delorier, it's got to happen, right? So Colorado did win the first 2 meetings with Minnesota. October 30th, they win 4-1. On January 17th, they win in a shootout 4-3. So this is the third of 4 meetings. They meet again to close out the season on April 29th. This may be a playoff preview. Not likely for round 1, but very likely for round 2, should we get there. For both of these teams. Colorado's 46-14-5. Last 10 games, they are 6-3-1. They did win their last game. Away from home, they're 20-10-2, and they're 15 points clear of Minnesota. So if Minnesota wins this one in regulation, they're only 13 points out of first in the division. There's not enough games left. On the Minnesota side, they're 39-20-4 overall. Last 10 games, they're 7-2-1. They've won 5 in a row. Minnesota's playing very well. At home, they're 22-7-1. They're 3 points ahead of St. Louis. They're 4 points ahead of Nashville. So for Minnesota, they're pretty firmly entrenched in second place in the division. That being said, if they lose, Nashville wins. That storyline could change very quickly because in the West, that's how things work. Then 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific, we got 3 games starting, and this is the latest any games start tomorrow. It's the earliest Sunday I've had, and my wife's not here. So that's just how it works. The one weekend where she's not here and I'm done early on a Sunday. We could watch movies, catch up on TV series. No. So the Florida Panthers in against the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is the first of 3 meetings between them. So the ironic part is that if Florida beats Toronto 3 times out of those 3, they may very well meet them in the first round of the playoffs. Toronto, if they can win all 3, probably don't have to worry about Florida in the first. I'm not even sure if that's ironic. Maybe in an Alanis Morissette way. So for Florida, they're 44-14-6. Last 10 games are 8-1-1. They've won 3 in a row. They did have to come back from 3-0 down against Ottawa tonight, so they don't want to do that against Toronto. And Toronto is going to be pretty upset with the way tonight went down. Away from home, they're 18-8-6. They're 7 points ahead of Boston. They're 8 points ahead of Tampa, which means they are 9 points ahead of the Toronto Maple Leafs. On the Toronto side, they're 40-19-5. Last 10 games, they're 5-4-1. They lost their game tonight against Montreal, and they outshot them badly. So they usually would win that game, but they don't tonight. 23-7-2 is their record at home. They are 2 points behind Boston, 1 point behind Tampa, and only 1 point clear of Washington. So again, if Florida were to sweep all 3 games against Toronto, it's possible that that would create a scenario where then Florida would meet Toronto in the playoffs in the first round, which, again, and I mentioned this in the power rankings, that would be an interesting one in that Florida hasn't won a round since 96, and Toronto hasn't won a round since 2004. So that could be a lot of fun to see 2 teams desperate to prove that the narrative is no longer valid and get out of that first round. Of course, for Florida, they want a lot more than the first round. Same with Toronto. There are a lot of teams with cup aspirations this year. I think it's going to be a pretty rough playoffs, which means great for us fans. Montreal will be in against New Jersey in a battle between 2 teams that aren't making the playoffs. In the first meeting on February 8th, New Jersey wins 7-1, thus the no mercy magnet that's on that game. April 7th will be the 3rd and final meeting between these teams. Montreal's playing relatively well, 18-37-10 overall. Last 10 games, though, they're 4-3-3. They won tonight against Toronto because Allen is playing relatively well, which is understating it. Away from home, they're 8-18-6. They're 5 points behind New Jersey. So they're 5 points behind the Devils for that last playoff spot, or last playoff spot, for last overall in the East. It is late. New Jersey's 23-37-5 overall. Last 10 games, they're 4-6. They've lost 2 in a row. At home, they're 15-14-3. They're 2 points behind Philly. They're 1 point behind Ottawa. They're 5 points ahead of the Montreal Canadiens. So, yeah, New Jersey is going to be the next team that gets mathematically eliminated in all likelihood, although Ottawa and Philadelphia aren't far behind them if they are. Also at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, the Arizona Coyotes, who have to get mathematically eliminated soon, right? They're in against the Winnipeg Jets. This is the 4th and final meeting. Home team has not won a game yet. Arizona went to Winnipeg on November 29th and Vemelka'd them 1-0. January 4th, Winnipeg wins 3-1 in Arizona. February 27th, Winnipeg wins 5-3 in Arizona. So we'll see if Arizona can keep the pattern and win in Winnipeg tomorrow. And if they do, Winnipeg's playoff chances pretty much done. So, and I say that even though, again, it can change from one day to the next. Arizona's 20-40-4 overall. Last 10 games, they're 5-5. They've lost 4 in a row in regulation. Away from home, they're 11-18-3. They're 2 points behind the Seattle Kraken. That's last place in the West. The Winnipeg Jets, 31-25-10. Over their last 10 games, they're 7-3. They won their last game. At home, they're 18-13-2. They're 4 points behind Vegas for that final playoff spot. They're 3 points behind Dallas, and thanks to Vancouver's win tonight, they're 1 point behind Vancouver yet again. So there's a number of teams for them to jump over. They could jump over Vancouver tomorrow. Dallas doesn't play. Vegas doesn't play. They can do themselves a favor, and winning in regulation would be good as well, because that is your first tiebreaker in terms of who does or doesn't make the playoffs. So there you go. Let me know your picks in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.